Kayla Norton. I'm the webmaster and brand manager for the Society for Engineering Management. Today, our curriculum is the Introduction to Project Management. It's our first full project management unit. We're joined by a couple members of CED, and they're going to help me along with presenting. So, project management, that's all what we're here to do, right? It's built up of a lot of different components. Project management is this giant umbrella term for a ton of different types of management. We've got integration management, scope, schedule, cost, quality, resource, communications, risk, procurement, and stakeholder management. This is a umbrella term, as I said, for leading your team, leading every variable within a project, and working towards achieving your goals on time. Each of these variables ties into the next, and it's very important to have them all aligned to create a successful schedule to reach your goal. Starting it off is project integration management. This spans the full progression of the project. I would argue that it's the most complicated project or most complicated topic within project management as a whole because it aligns your scope for the rest of the project. You'll notice that within each of these units, there's a cycle to get around each topic. I call it the plan, do, check, act. It comes from the MSI certified project management, lean manufacturing, Lean Six Sigma certification that I received. Highly recommend looking into that more if you're more interested in it. But it comes into play with planning out each module, then doing your plan, checking over your work, and then acting for the future. Then you can cycle around and do it again. So you'll notice you can kind of see that built in here. You're developing your project charter, developing your plan, directing and managing, you're monitoring, and then closing based on anything that needs to be changed. Next up is project scope management. This is built around the sort of schedule and progression of the project as a whole. You'll notice the same sort of scope behind how to go about this, the plan, definitions, creating things to actually go about implementation, and then acting and controlling it in the final stages. This is a really important stage as well because you have to align for every single stage in procurement, resource management, employee management, and it has to track along each stage of the process from start to finish. Project schedule management. This is your timeline. It is a little bit more textbook than the scope management. And something really important about this is that you're aiming not for the bare minimum, so not for the lean, but for the absolute maximum. If you have a task that's going to take you 2 weeks, you want to start with that task and make sure that you're looking at how long that'll take you before moving on to the next and the smaller tasks. Project cost management, this goes hand in hand with procurement. You're looking at the things that are equipment maintenance, the cost of hiring new employees, cost of acquiring resources or procurement, and keeping up with anything that your stakeholders may need. You'll notice again, same progression that I keep mentioning, planning, doing, check, act. You want to make sure that you keep all of these things aligned to move forward into the next stages. In actually implementing your project as a whole, I would argue that this is your second most important, the quality. It is the most important thing to our stakeholders, our customers, our suppliers, any employees. The quality is most important. It coincides with your project scope because if your scope defines properly how you would go about doing these things, you can ensure the highest quality at the quickest time. You want to make sure that each quality that is defined by your customer or whatever stakeholder is invested in the process, you want to make sure that each quality is properly received and kept track of so that each thing can be successfully fulfilled and maintained. You see again the scope of plan, doing, check, and act as well from here. Project resource management, going back to project cost management as well, you're looking at the hands-on materialistic version of project cost. You want to really ascertain how many people you need, how many machines, if you need more machines, if you need to upgrade equipment, if you need more materials, if you're going to run out of materials, and the costs behind acquiring all of these things. This is really important because without project resources, the project can't occur. This goes hand in hand as well with project scope, making sure that this is planned out for ahead of time so that you're not stuck in a bind when you run out of resources or if you're not moving fast enough to reach a deadline. Communications management. If you remember from one of our prior modules where we talked about communication, this is a really important thing to be able to do because it is important to our stakeholders, our subject matter experts, project sponsors, and anyone else who has a vested interest in projects. Whether this is a project of just fulfilling a requirement from a customer or continuous improvement, it is important to realize what the goals are, communicate these effectively to every stakeholder within the project on both sides of input and output, knowing your audience to make sure that you can properly communicate if it's technical or more business oriented. For example, if someone is your finance director and you're talking to them about an issue in Python code, it might fly right over their head. Vice versa, if you're talking about budgeting and the accounting to your engineers. Know your audience, know what you're communicating, and communicating effectively is very important to getting your project done efficiently. Risk management, another thing that we will cover. You really want to consider all variables and outcomes. Important to making sure that we get everything done on time. Every risk that can play into your project is crucial to ensuring that it gets done on time. If you don't account for the possibility that a machine may go down or how long it may go down for, you're losing track of how many resources can be lost without necessity. Project procurement management, which you heard me mention earlier, is the contracts, agreements, all the outsourcing that happens company-wide. This is really important in knowing how to form the new ones, but also maintaining the old, and ties in with the project communication. As long as you're staying in constant communication with every stakeholder within a project, this should be one of the easier things to maintain. As long as you properly communicate your resources, what you're looking for, and keep in touch with every stakeholder, both new and old, you should find some success in this area. And then we get to the stakeholder management. Here's a great diagram of all the people that have a vested interest in a project. You're noticing that it's internal and external. You have your customers, but also your project leads. You have your client sponsors, your project management. Every stakeholder can be, or every stakeholder that is involved in a project can be internal or external. Your suppliers, your customers, your project sponsors, the employees that are working hands-on on a project, every person that has a vested interest in a project is a stakeholder, and it is crucial to make sure that all of these are kept track of so that everybody receives the proper satisfaction for their specific goals. So why is project management important? All of these different stages tie into one total goal, and that's the continuous improvement or the goal of the project, whatever it may be. When one of these things slip, many tumble with it. It's a slippery slope of project management. You need to keep your schedule aligned to make sure that your stakeholders are happy. You have to manage your resources to make sure that you have good quality. You can catch my drift here. It's very important for all the things to stand up together so that nothing specifically collapses. With everything managed successfully, you'll find yourself conducting a very successful project. Anybody needs to join the group me, and all our QR codes are up. If there's any questions or anything like that. If not, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy with CED. He's going to talk a little bit about CED as a whole, and then I believe you're going to turn it over to Lorenzo for a presentation. Your mic's not working.
Hey, Michaela, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. This is Amber with CED. While Jeremy works through getting his audio set up, I know he was having some tech difficulties. He called me a few moments ago, so he'll jump on in just a minute. But I apologize, I don't have my camera on. I was added to this meeting a little bit late, and I just came back from the gym, so I'm going to spare y'all. So just full transparency. But I just wanted to mention, if anything is intriguing to you that either Lorenzo or Jeremy talks about this evening, I do oversee all of our recruiting and development for the Great Lakes Division, which is Michigan and Indiana. So I'm going to drop my email there. So if you just even want to have a conversation about opportunities, internships, full-time, please feel free to reach out to me.
How about now? Hey, how's everybody doing? Good. I made the rookie mistake. My technology failed me. Can you guys hear the background noise, or can you hear me okay?
You're coming through clear.
Okay, good. So full transparency, I'm traveling. This is a big boy in South Haven, Michigan. I was supposed to be to my hotel by now. My day ran a little bit longer. I'm trying to problem solve and critical think through my situation. So thank you for your patience. I apologize for my technology fails. That's a pet peeve of mine, so I apologize. First and foremost, I was there the whole time, Michaela, listening. I was in spirit. You couldn't see me, but I was on the phone. I heard you start. I feel like we missed the cue. I feel like you said, and then CED is going to be assisting me. And then there was a long pause. I'm like, I feel like I could jump in, but I didn't. So I'm sorry I failed you there. But great presentation. So my name is Jeremy Turnbull. I'm a division manager. I work for a company called CED, privately held company. Amber may have gotten into some of this while I was struggling with my phone. But we're in an industry called electrical distribution. The industry is $120 billion or so every year. We recruit very heavily from Michigan State. We recruit out of the sales program, and probably a year or so ago, we got more involved with AES and the engineering portion of Michigan State, and we're thrilled with the talent pool that we're finding. So we're absolutely hiring. We're absolutely looking for talent. I think Amber said if you want to talk to her, she's got she's given her contact info to you. We met Michaela probably a year ago or so. We're excited to be talking to you. My role with the company is division manager. I oversee 28 of our businesses. It's a very decentralized organization. So I came through a training program. I sold in our organization. Most of what we do is construction related. So if you walk around Michigan State's campus and you see a new dorm or a new business school or whatever the case may be, what you probably don't think of, or I certainly didn't however many years ago, was, for them to build that building, they have to put lights in, they have to put switches in, they have to put cables to get the power to the places we want power. You got to put data where you want it. Well, all that material has to come from somewhere. That's what we do. So if you take that one step further, I promise I'm going to tie this all together and then kick it over to Lorenzo. We represent most major manufacturers of electrical components. So a lot of the value add that we bring to our customers is through project management. And so a lot of the things that Michaela was talking about, I was making notes, but our thoughts on project management in our electrical distribution field, they kind of start with, the development of an idea, right? A business owner or a business or maybe a personal entity says, hey, I want to build this structure, right? So then they got to talk with an architect, and then an architect has to design something. So then you move through a specification process, right? If we're doing our job really well, we'd love to be involved that early in the process. Then you've got the after the specification process, for us, it's the material handling process when it comes to project management. Then you've got the the expedition, which also kind of goes into the material handling, the freight, that sort of thing, logistics. Then you've got the invoicing process, probably as important as any. And then lastly, kind of the warranty process after the building's done. What are you doing for the next 12 months? I don't do it every day. It's been many, many years since I got involved. I'm going to shut the heck up. Lorenzo, maybe you could do an intro and tell them something way smarter than I can.
Sure. Yeah. Everyone, thanks, Michaela, for having us. My name is Lorenzo DeMondin. I work for CED out of our Fort Wayne, Indiana location. I graduated college in 2017, and I did my internship with CED in the summer of 2016. So I've been with the company for about 4 years. Day to day, I run our project management service in Fort Wayne. We call it Fast Solutions. It was something we developed maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We identified an opportunity in our market that a lot of electrical contractors we work with are pretty unorganized when it comes to the whole process of a project lifecycle. So we saw that we could enter the market and provide a resource to our customers that keeps them on track for all their project material. We plan out stuff with foremans and electrical project managers on the best way to approach how to manage their projects. But really our goal is to be most efficient and save them money in the long run. One thing you touched on, Michaela, during your presentation was the Plan, Do, Check, Act. And that's a super important thing every day that we do. We plan out, we stick to the plan, we check it over and over again. The most important thing when it comes to project management is attention to detail. It's almost like you're babysitting every single process, and you got to stick to your plan. You have to implement your plan, check it, and then do it and act. Like you said, Plan, Do, Check, Act. That's all day, every day. We do that nonstop. Another thing you touched on, I wrote some notes down, is your communication management plan. That's always important. Communication is a huge gap in the workforce. I don't know if it's a older generation and a younger generation thing, but some people don't speak their minds. And our project management service is always communicate every single little detail. So that was I took a big part of that away from the presentation. But to touch a little bit more on what Jeremy said and what we do every day, or what I do every day in our projects field, is we really have two types of projects in our, Jeremy said, electrical industry. Is design, build, and bid spec. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Michaela, but this is engineering society, right? Right there.
Society for Engineering Management.
Okay, so we work hand in hand with a lot of engineers with our bid spec projects. So what they do is before a project starts, how do I put this? They send out a list of specifications: mechanical, electrical, roofing, everything on the whole construction side. So what we do is we take those prints and we do something called a takeoff, which is we interpret what the architect and engineer have put forward, and we supply a bill of material. So to take you a little bit through our project life cycle, we do a takeoff, which is we provide our bill of material. We go through the specs and drawings, and then we do approvals. So when you talked about communicating, we talk up and down the supply chain with architects, engineers. Here's our bill of material. Do you approve of these? We get them ordered, so on and so forth. And then we coordinate with lead times and estimated ship dates, which is more communication. And then what Jeremy said, towards the end of the project, we go through our warranty claims. So that's kind of like our little project life cycle that we deal with. But that's a little bit what I do. If you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any of them. Jeremy,
Yeah, I missed something back on me.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, I just was going to add a couple things, if that's okay. Michaela, how are we on time, by the way? I don't want to make anybody stay longer than they have to.
No, you have plenty of time. We have till 8.
Okay, perfect. There was something that Lorenzo had said, and it made me think of a trip that I took. So CED has got 720 locations, big organization. Each one of our profit centers, they run their own business like it's their own business, right? So we essentially have 720 CEOs running their own organization across the United States. So one of the things that I did, I don't know, it's probably been 6 or 7 years, is I kind of went on a world tour of sorts, and I went to other electrical distributors, CEDs, across the United States. And one of the trips I took, I went to Houston, Texas. And in Houston, Texas, we took a business from $40 million. And over a very short period of time, we grew that business to $200 million. And so I went down there and I spent 2 days with the division manager who oversaw. His name is Greg Everard. And Greg was actually a mechanical engineer by degree. And super smart guy. I was super impressed with the business that he had built. And it was really a lot for me to grasp in 2 days. It just was really impressive what they were doing. But ultimately, I asked him as he was driving me back to the airport, I said, Greg, this is super impressive. You know, as you try to put this in, you know, a really simple, concise form, you know, how did you take a business from $40 million and make it $200 million profitably in a very short period of time? And he basically said, Jeremy, everything that we did in our organization, whether it went from taking the trash out, to making a sales call, to taking a customer to play golf, to processing an order, we tried to move away from a reactive approach to a proactive approach. And I think Lorenzo kind of touched on that, and it's all in communication. You know, we don't want surprises. And I think the reason that I tell you that story is, you know, those are big numbers, right? And that's one of our single locations that moved in that manner. That's one of our bigger locations too. I don't want you to think we have, you know, 700, $200 million locations. We don't. Well, we have some, we have several. But the other thing that I remember when I was in a business is our best inside salespeople and our best project managers, if a customer called them and said, hey, where is my light fixture? Or, hey, where are my circuit breakers? Or, hey, what's the shipping status of that? Our better inside salespeople and our better project managers, they viewed that phone call from the customer to us as a failure on our behalf. Because if they don't know where their stuff is at, we haven't proactively communicated to them where it is. And that's, you know, there are other people that are in our space that we're competing with. And if we don't have a differentiating advantage, if we're not providing a higher level of customer service that makes their life easier, you know, how can we go to them after this project is over with full confidence and say, hey, you know, that hotel project, how did you think it went? I see you're bidding this next one. Can we have your next piece of business? And can we have it for a 2 to 3 to 5% premium because we provide a higher level of performance? Does that make sense and add some perspective to communicating proactively? Okay. Good. One of the things that I picked up, you talked on Michaela's presentation. One of the things I thought was powerful is you talked about knowing your audience. As you're dealing with different people, whether you're talking to a CFO or a purchasing agent or a field electrician in our case. I think that was great advice. But I've got nothing else to add in that respect. We'd love to take any questions you guys want to talk about. We're here to serve you.
Hi, Jeremy and Lorenzo. Thanks. So I was just wondering, as far as like the power and electrical distribution side, like what's happening in that industry over the short term, midterm, and long term in terms of like the energy transition, and what's CED's role in that?
It's a great question. Very, very pointed, and I think we have a good answer. So a couple things. I'll respond to maybe COVID, and then maybe to the green energy. I feel like you're kind of hinting at. Okay. So COVID's supposed to affect our industry. We're supposed to see a 10 to 15% downturn by the end of the year. We haven't seen any of that. As a division over my territory, we're relatively flat. So we think we're taking share. We're investing into the downturn. We're hiring lots of people. We've increased our inventory. We're increasing our value add. We see what's happening in the economic environment, very similar to what happened in 2008 and 9. I don't know if you all remember that, but that was a difficult economic time. And as everybody else was going left and kind of firing people and cutting their internships and killing their training programs and peeling back, all their investments, we went the opposite way. And we doubled down our investment on talented people. And it's really paid us huge dividends over the last 10 years. We've outpaced our competitors for a long time. So we view this time period as the same. One of the things that I'm talking to my people about is we have to lean into this. This is a great chance to grow market share. So COVID has actually, it's been terrible for so many reasons for people financially and from a medical standpoint. It's been difficult for lots of us from a stress and anxiety standpoint, but from a sheer business standpoint, it's kind of forced us to be better business people. And our business model actually thrives in difficult economic environments. So there's a long answer on COVID. I apologize. From an alternative energy standpoint, we empower our people on a local level to do whatever they want and need to do for their local customers and their markets. It's got to check 3 boxes for us. It's got to be legal. It's got to be moral. It's got to be ethical. As long as it checks those 3 boxes, we unleash our 720 profit center managers and their sales organizations to march forward into any opportunity that exists within a marketplace and go forward. So ironically, probably in that 2008 downturn, we had a profit center manager, don't quote me on the details, I want to say he was in Arizona, and his business was used to doing a certain level of sales or gross profit. And in order to keep his people busy and employed, he creatively recognized an opportunity in solar energy. So this wasn't a corporate initiative. We don't really have a corporate anything. Everything's done at the local field level. But he recognized an opportunity in solar. And because he had lost all this residential business, he had to go and supplement his business to keep people employed. And we tiptoed into solar. And he got into it, and he learned about it, and he grew it. Today, I would say that we are significantly outpacing the second place distributor network in solar. We're probably the largest distribution network in the United States when it comes to solar panels, inverters, and all the balance of power product that goes with it. And that's through our CED Green Tech. And out of our 720 locations, don't quote me, but I want to say 200 of them are CED Green Techs, which are exclusively for the solar world. Thank you.
You're welcome. If anyone else has any questions of anything at all, I'm sure Jeremy would be willing to answer anything about day in the life at CED, just anything in terms of interest in recruiting, anything like that. Any questions at all?
Want to jump in real quick, Michaela? Unless Miles was jumping in. We got Miles.
Well, I wanted wanted to know a little bit more about some technology developments as they apply to your business. Specifically, a lot of things like drones or like other sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Sorts of technology that are relying more on devices and software and systems over people for like inspections and things like that, or things that augment people physically working and handling things. So I'd like to know a little bit more about the direction the industry is kind of moving with that, and also how you're keeping on top of it and sort of leading it.
So I think good question. I think our biggest advantage is our business model, and our business model really eradicates bureaucracy. We empower local people to make local decisions to serve customers, and that allows us to get things done. And if you look at Amazon, who I would argue is one of the leaders in the category that you're kind of asking about, right? I mean, they've automated darn near everything. If you go back to their leadership statement from 22 years ago when they started, one of the things that they said is, we need to have local people that are able to make lots of quick decisions every single day. And that's basically CED. I mean, we have 720 people empowered to recognize what needs to happen locally. So I think we're in a good position to identify as markets are evolving, as we need to become drone delivery or whatever the case may be. Ultimately, I wouldn't say we're great at technology. I think that we've come a long way in 10 years. I think that 10 years ago, we were probably in the 1980s. Today, we're probably in the early, 2009, 2012 era, but we're making up ground really quick. One of the things we've done in the last 3 or 4 years is we've doubled and tripled our technology budget, our IT budget. And what we're trying to do is we call it a sticky factor with our customers. So a lot of our customers are electrical contractors, small to medium businesses, anywhere from $1 million to $10 million in revenue. And a lot of them conduct their business on QuickBooks. So what we're trying to do is tie our invoicing system into their payroll, what they're doing with their customers from an invoicing standpoint, keeping their books. So we've made lots of investments and headway there in the world of technology. Again, one of the downfalls of our model, maybe you guys don't care about this, but I think it's relevant. I think we're challenged right now. We've got a great technology investment in our service center, but we're struggling to get all that we're doing for our customers down to the field level right now. So we just recently hired what I've called an IT liaison that works for the company. So he works directly for my division, and he's kind of taking all the AI and the system efficiency, automation improvements that we're doing, and kind of spoon feeding it to the field to hopefully get better implementation. But we're well aware that we have to continue to evolve. We certainly do plenty online. We've got e-commerce, all that fun stuff. We've laughed about drone delivery. I don't know that we're quite there yet, but I do know on construction sites, a lot of your more sophisticated builders, subcontractors, and developers, they are doing lots of things that used to take a person walking around a job site, and now they're doing it with a drone in a third of the time. So great question.
Thank you. I'm sorry for the background noise. That was a great answer.
Thank you. What I was going to say before Miles jumped in with an extremely difficult question for me to answer, good question, but was anything at all. Amber and Lorenzo and myself, we're here to be social servants to any and all of you. One of the things I will tell you is I think a lot of college students are really scared right now. Not necessarily because they're scared of getting the COVID virus necessarily, but they're scared because there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety in our everyday life. But also, a lot of you may be juniors or seniors and looking for internships or jobs, and it's like, oh my gosh, is the world crumbling off into an abyss? It's not. So don't freak out. There are still great organizations like CED. There's plenty of them out there that are looking for people just like you. So don't worry about it. Do the best you can. You'll be fine. But even if there are any questions outside of engineering, professional development, anything you guys want to talk about, we're here to help do the best we can.
Also, if anyone feels more comfortable tossing their question in the chat, I will also read that aloud. I know I've done a lot of these and some people get a little bit nervous. So
I will jump in and say that I met Jeremy last year, which was my freshman year, and I knew nothing about CED when I first went to that career fair where I met him. And I have to say that that networking event was one of the most influential experiences in my freshman year. Just because you don't know anything about a company doesn't mean that it's not a good fit for you. The contacts that I've made with CED are some of the best contacts I have in my college experience. So definitely, like, if you have any questions or you're even remotely interested, highly recommend looking at those links that Amber sent in the chat. And yeah, we have plenty of time for questions if anybody has anything.
Even outside of CED, if there's another organization that may be right for you, I've got a pretty solid network. Lorenzo's got a solid network. Whatever we can do to help you, we're just here to serve you.
Hey, Jeremy, I have a question. I was thinking about what you were saying about, operating a business on a local level and having, many CEOs rather than like employees. How does that affect your sort of transition speed in terms of COVID? So for example, COVID hits, then you have to transition your whole business model. Like, how does it affect speed when you do it at a local level?
So I think that's a good question. I think directly relating to your question from a speed standpoint, I think it gives us an absolute advantage. I think that's the biggest advantage you have in a decentralized organization. A lot of organizations, they view themselves as these huge, giant battleships, right? And when you have this huge, giant battleship, they're big and they're impressive, but getting them to change course or move a different way, that's very difficult. They can't do that. We like to view ourselves as these, these little mini speedboats with little mini turrets, and we're in and out, left, right, up, down, we're fast. So from a speed standpoint, we can move quick and nimble, and that's our advantage over our competitors. Expanding on that a little bit more from a COVID standpoint, I'm certainly biased. This COVID thing has thrown us all for a loop. It's affected our life greatly, all of us. I think we were able to respond better because all we did was kind of, share best practices. We communicated CDC guidelines, those sorts of things. We've minimized our cases. So in my division, we probably have, 200 or so employees, and we've only had 5 positive cases in the division, which I think is greatly lower than what they say the overall infection rate is, depending on what data you read. So I think it's been effective, and I think the model has helped that. But don't get me wrong, there's certainly been times where it's hard on our managers. I mean, this is a really difficult time, but in true CED fashion, we gave them the data, we gave them the information, we stayed close to them, we gave them best practices, but we said, hey, you got to do what's right in Lansing, Michigan. And that may be different than what's different in, Butte, Montana. And anyway, I think it played to our advantage, even though it was certainly a challenging time for our managers to lead through that. They stepped up to the plate. They did great.
That sounds good. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
I'll also say if anybody has questions about project management or lean manufacturing or Six Sigma, I might not be the most qualified to talk about it, but I dropped a link in the chat for the certification courses that I took that got me kind of jump started on this information. It came from the Management and Strategy Institute, so that link is in the chat as well.
I guess we could talk World Series. I mean, baseball is still happening, right?
I mean, if there's no more questions, any final thoughts from Jeremy or Amber or Lorenzo? If not, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And thank you to all of our members for coming to the meeting tonight. I hope you guys got something out of it, learned a lot. Please definitely pursue contacts in CED, even if it's just for LinkedIn, just for the heck of it. Definitely pursue that.
Michaela, thank you for allowing us to join. Lorenzo, Amber, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody here, thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you guys for joining us.